Hello everyone, this is Fine from Awesome Tech Gaming Pro. I hope you all are well. Today I'm going to talk about the brand new TCL QM6K TV. 4 years ago, TCL was leading the way in the affordable television space. That was until Hisense started to take the industry by storm. TCL was outclassed by Hisense pricing and performance, and it looked like it couldn't find a way to stand up. That has changed. Last year's QM7 showed hints of what TCL was capable of, but the brand new QM6K takes its technology to another level. The result is one of the best TVs for gaming at the $1,000 price point.
If you are new in my channel, then please subscribe and press the bell icon for future notifications and upcoming videos. I have another channel named Tech Gaming Villa, where I upload similar kind of tech videos like TV comparison, sound system, home theater. You can check and subscribe.
TCL isn't breaking any new ground with the design of the QM6K. This is an unassuming, simple flat screen that is 2 inches deep without the stand, but with it included, you will have to make room for 11.69 inches on a media console. 3 of the sides feature very slim bezels, while the bottom has a thin silver base that has an additional small bump in the middle for the IR receiver and microphone mode switch. This is a very light television, and reasonably strong adult can hoist it and the box over their shoulder with relative ease. In contrast to modern OLED televisions that are extremely heavy, it is easy to navigate the QM6K's 38 pounds around and get it positioned in a living room. The feet don't have the best design, while most manufacturers include metal dimples or guides to assure that it isn't possible to install the feet incorrectly. TCL went with plastic knobs that nearly instantly shear off. It's also easily possible to install the feet backward and not notice. The instructions are definitely required, which is unusual since feet installation is usually very self-explanatory. The rear of the television sports a 40-watt 3-speaker system. TCL's input layout is the reverse of what most manufacturers choose, with the power port on the left side and all the other inputs on the right. The QM6K has 4 HDMI ports, and 2 of them support the maximum 4K at 144 Hz, which is becoming the standard for televisions. The other 2 are slower, just 4K or 60p. But luckily, one of those slower ports is used for eARC, meaning you don't have to waste one of the high-performance ports on your soundbar or sound system like you have to with a Sony television. TCL also included one USB 3.0 port, one USB 2.0 port, an RF input, and an optical port. TCL included a set of small hooks that pop into the back of the television and can be used to manage cables across the back and down the middle. These don't fully prevent you from being able to see them through the gap below the TV, but it does at least keep them organized. It's not my favorite iteration of management, but it at least exists. I'd prefer a method that guides them behind or keeps them hidden by the display's feet, but that was probably difficult given the thin nature of the ones TCL chose for this television. TCL's remote control design is larger in both height and width than the industry average, but it's not too cumbersome. The full plastic design doesn't overwhelm with too many options and features a hamburger for quick access to the most important TV settings, as well as the traditional gear icon for full settings access. It otherwise features the familiar suspects, volume, channels, voice control, input, etc. It comes with 6 pre-installed shortcuts too. It has Netflix, Prime Video, YouTube, Apple TV, TCL TV, and Disney+. 5 out of the 6 of those options are popular, regularly used services, which is nice to see. And to talk about its software and user interface, TCL, like Hisense and Sony, uses Google TV as the operating system, and it's a stock system with just a couple of changes that are specific to the TCL experience. I will say that one weak point of the TCL QM6K is the processing speed. The TV can take a few seconds longer than you might expect to fire up, and inputs on the remote can feel just a hair laggy, especially if you are asking it to start up a new app or if you try to immediately go to the input options. when you first turn it on. It can also sometimes not react to button presses and then 10 seconds later react to them all at once as if they were caught up in a queue. This isn't frequent, but it does happen. Google TV might be a resource-hungry operating system because I have noticed this can be a problem across all of the manufacturers who choose to use it. So I don't particularly hold this experience against TCL, but it's still worth mentioning. Google TV's default is littered with suggestions, which is becoming the norm with all smart TV interfaces. Unfortunately, you can turn these off by activating apps only mode, but even that never gets rid of the big banner at the top of the home screen. All that said, Google TV never autoplays anything from the home screen, unlike other systems. So it's still one of the least offensive options available. It also has support for every popular streaming service, so you won't be without options. Now to talk about its picture quality. The TCL QM6K, worth noting that this TV is TCL's entry-level mini LED television, which means the recently 2024 lineup QM7, which is now more affordable than the TCL QM6K, sits higher up on the line. The price cut is because it's last year's model, but it might be difficult to rationalize spending more for the entry-level QM6K versus picking up the QM7 mid-level television for a discount. There are reasons to do so. However, firstly, looking at the color performance of the TCL QM6K, it's almost as good as last year's QM7. It covers 99.8%, 81.3%, and 89.6% of the sRGB, Adobe RGB, and DCI P3 color gamuts, respectively. Or we can average delta E of 0.64 and never more than 2.85, which is outstanding. Other than the deep in Adobe RGB coverage, which really only matters if you intend to use the TV as a PC monitor for color critical work. The TCL QM6K's color differences compared to the QM7 are worrying to be generally imperceptible. I will say the TV pushes blues a lot, just like the QM7 does. So you may want to warm up the color temperature a bit to even out the tones. This tends to make your eyes less tired anyway, so it's a win-win situation. Now I am to talk about its panels. Panel uniformity is pretty good, dipping only in one corner of the display. That outperforms the uniformity on the QM7 last year. Panel uniformity varies from TV to TV, so your results may vary, but what TCL appears to have done here is very impressive for an inexpensive entry-level television. I think skin tones and landscape color both look really good on the TCL QM6K, especially with native 4K content. I'll say that the upscaling technology in the QM6K isn't industry-leading and can result in footage that looks a tad out of focus or fuzzy. That means broadcast TV can suffer a bit, but streaming TVs and movies will look great. That latter note is especially the case given the QM6K's outstanding HDR color support. It has multiple picture settings including a filmmaker mode, and the TV supports Dolby Vision in addition to HD10, HD10 Plus HLG and IMAX Enhanced. We'll be hard-pressed to find an HDR movie that the QM6K can't show in its intended HDR profile. Where the QM6K falls in a head-to-head matchup with the TCL QM7 is in its peak brightness. This new television peaks in the 900 nit range, which is well below the 1500 nits in the QM7 packs. However, this isn't a straight downgrade because TCL sacrificed some brightness to compensate and overcome the biggest weakness of the TCL QM7 off-angle viewing and halo. In large living rooms, a wide viewing angle is important so that everyone likely seated in a wide fan shape around the TV sees the same high-quality image. Typically, LEDs and especially more affordable ones see immediate and noticeable drop-off in quality by shifting even a few degrees to the right or left of center. The TCL QM6K has no perceptible loss in color saturation or contrast between viewing it head-on and seeing it from the sides, which is extremely impressive. Perhaps even more impressive is the very well-controlled halo on the QM6K. Halo refers to a glow that appears around brightly lit objects set against dark backgrounds. The most common everyday way to notice this is watching super wide movies or TV shows with captions or subtitles, which will often sit against a pure black background below the on-screen content. Most LED televisions struggle here, and the lettering will appear to have a big white hazy glow around them, which is not only distracting but can also make it harder to read the words. LEDs get around this by their ability to only illuminate the exact pixels that are necessary, but LEDs use dimming zones, and those are much larger than individual pixels and are the cause of that halo. TCL does use dimming zones in the QM6K 500 to be exact, but also combines this with a new halo control system layer. Compared to the TCL QM7, I'd estimate the halo to be reduced by upward of 85 to 90%. You really have to look for it to catch it, and while there is still some present, it's one of the best suppression technologies that I have seen on a non-OLED display. Combined with the excellent off-angle viewing experience, content viewed on the TCL QM6K will look significantly better, albeit not as bright compared to the TCL QM7. Some stutter, especially on content that is moving vertically across the frame and when in the filmmaker or movie modes, but TCL's motion clarity set on low immediately removes the problem. Even better, I don't think the motion clarity adversely affects other content and avoids giving images that strictly overly smooth look that motion settings typically do. While I usually recommend foregoing motion smoothing of any kind, I think you can set it and forget it on low with the TCL QM6K and be very pleased with the results. If your TV room is brightly lit with lots of windows, the TCL QM6K will not be able to overcome that brightness as easily as the TCL QM7 from last year. Added to that is the very glossy reflective look of the TCL QM6K's front panel, which will glare quite easy, which could be visible in these photos. However, in dimmer rooms where its brightness is less necessary, the TCL QM6K is much better television. Now I am to talk about its gaming performance. The first thing I tested on the TCL QM6K was its gaming support, and it is there that I have been most impressed. TCL has to expect games to look and feel fantastic on this television thanks to the variable refresh rate accelerator, which takes the 144 Hz HDMI 2.1 maximum throughput and doubles it to perceive 288. I can't really tell the difference after we start to go higher than 150 Hz. But what I can say is that competitive multiplayer gaming feels spectacular. Both Marvel Rivals and Apex Legends are snappy and buttery smooth with no lag or perceived frame loss. At least not due to the television. TCL also includes support for AMD FreeSync Premium Pro, which means gamers will find a good experience whether they're using a PC or a console. That 144 Hz is also the TV's native refresh rate, which means the panel is actually capable of matching the speeds that are being driven to it. So even without the help of VRR, the TCL QM6K manages to feel as fast and performance as an OLED for competitive gaming. TCL includes access to its game bar, which gives you more control over how games look. There are a few profiles that adjust the shadow detail for competitive shooters versus the lighter contrast you might want for a single-player RPG, and these can be dialed in further with a shadow detail option. All of the benefits that make the TCL QM6K great for 4K movies and television are there in equal measure for gaming, which means couched co-op won't be negatively affected by bad viewing angles, and narrative-driven games will have the color and contrast that match Hollywood's best. Given that the weakest point of this television is its brightness, I think one of the best use cases for the TCL QM6K is development in a gaming room or basement. There it has more than enough brightness to deliver a great experience, and the entry-level price combined with its excellent features makes it ideal as a household second TV. Now I am to talk about its audio quality. If there is one place I am disappointed with the TCL QM6K, it's with the audio quality. It's bad. Not only does it lack the mids and lows that is a common problem with all flat screens, it is also terribly unbalanced. The sound appears noisy and muddled, and reliance on the highs means music can sound down right harsh. Voices are clear at least, but if there are any competing sounds next to those voices, they can easily get lost, especially for deeper, lower toned speech. I was hopeful for the audio quality given it at least looks impressive with those three speakers on the back, but I am quite disappointed. That said, I have yet to find a television that I don't recommend getting a soundbar or sound system with, as all televisions lack the ability to back up their excellent visuals with even mediocre audio quality. You will definitely want one here, though, as it's well below what I consider to be average performance. So now the question is, should you buy the TCL QM6K? Actually, TCL's biggest competition is going to be against itself because, as mentioned, last year's TCL QM7 and TCL QM8 are both high-powered televisions in TCL's lineup and are also both less expensive at the time of this video, the TCL QM6K, as they are old stock now. Still, I do think that unless you have a supremely bright living room and the windows are right across from the front of the television, the TCL QM6K earns its price premium thanks to dramatically improved viewing angles and halo suppression, as well as its fantastic contrast and great colors. It's a shockingly good showing from TCL's entry-level models. Hisense is also still worth considering, as its U7 series brings superior brightness and great color, albeit worse off-angle viewing. So what's your thought about this newly released TCL QM6K? Please write in the comments below. That's it from now.